Hello, everybody. It's Paul Hogden again here from SEO Underground, and I am here with the one and only Terry Power. How are you?
Hey, doing great, doing great.
That's great stuff. And Terry is coming across to the UK to talk at SEO Underground. And Terry, for those who don't know you or aren't familiar with your work, perhaps you can tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, as Paul said, I'm Terry Power. I live in the United States. I'm an SEO consultant. I do a lot of testing of SEO things. I'm fascinated with Google, and I want to dominate it.
Fantastic. Excellent. So how did you first get into SEO, Terry?
I came in through the back door. I was a web developer in the 90s. When I started, there were only 6,000 websites, and half of those were porn. So if you were not doing porn, it was easy for everybody to find your website. And then suddenly, the net exploded, and there were way too many websites to have yours found easily. So I started looking into that, what I could do to make the websites I was building for clients and for myself, affiliate stuff back then. And turns out there was a term for that, and that was SEO, and that was a lot more interesting and fascinating to me than just building websites.
So talking about kind of the darker side of SEO, how did you then take that step from SEO to kind of doing some stuff on the black hat side?
Well, when I was starting to get into how I could get things ranking, there were a lot of little sites you would come across on ICQ or little forums or bulletin boards. For those of you that don't know what those are, they were the important places to get information back then. And people would tell you, what I found out, I can do this, and I can do that. And you go, well, I'm going to try that. Oh, if my footer, which is all black, is nothing but my keyword repeated in black, suddenly I start ranking. Wow. And there were things people would tell you, and you do, and the next day, boom, you were jumping up. You were like, wow, this is amazing. And then, of course, sometimes you do it and boom, you were gone. I was like, uh-oh. But having developed websites, I knew HTML, and I could go back in and change my coding to take something out if it didn't work. But once you find something that works, and you play with it and go, I wonder if I also do this, if I add this in, it's easy to get caught up in the simplicity of being able to give Google what it wants and rise to the top.
Yeah.
Instead of, well, I'll just build out great content and eventually I'll be found by everybody and they'll all give me links. Yeah. Bull, nobody's going to find you to give you a link if so you can have a beautiful billboard up by the side of the highway, but if it's pointing the other direction, it's not going to do you any good. Nobody's ever going to say, let's start driving this way so we can see that billboard. It's not going to happen.
That is a good analogy. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it is true. Is that it is an amalgamation of lots of different things, and the one person that said that they've got the one bit of secret sauce that you need, I think they're wrong.
Yeah, but, there's lots of things involved, and they work together.
Yeah,
And from testing, my own testing and others testing groups I'm in, they found that the most important ranking factor is how many ranking factors you're using. So you can do perfect title tags all day long, but if you're not also using some of the other factors, that's not going to do it. No. In the same way with perfect backlinks or whatever it is. That one thing alone is just not going to get it.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really fair sort of statement. Really, is that it is about using a little bit of everything. It's a bit like using seasoning. I think a little bit of everything makes the whole thing work.
Yeah. All things in moderation, but
Yeah.
all things. You can't just
Yeah.
use one thing in moderation. Yeah.
Yeah, it would just be too salty. So yeah, I think that's the thing. So we both shared that we love Doctor Who. So if you had a TARDIS, if you had a time machine, what's the one thing that you wish you could go back and tell yourself at the start of your SEO career?
Probably tune your pages well, and you don't have to worry about any of the updates. I don't care about updates. I'm going to keep giving Google what it wants and what it rewards. So
yeah.
But that would probably be it. Tune your pages well, and
nothing else matters.
No.
I'm sure that you've seen the forums have been awash with people, very upset that suddenly their site has disappeared from the from the search engines recently, because it turns out that they've just used AI to the nth degree and probably built 100 pages very quickly, ranked quite well, and then dropped like a brick as soon as this new algorithms come out. So I think if you're doing it properly, in as much as writing decent material and all that type of stuff, backlinking correctly, making sure that all of your tags are in order, and so on and so forth, you're not going to go too far wrong.
No, and you see in those same forums other people about how they've jumped up.
Yeah,
because the 14 people above them were all trying to cheat the system a little, and all of a sudden they just fell, and it just rises you to the top.
Yeah.
So
it was interesting. I was speaking with Craig Campbell about this, but I've noticed that there's been a few services that have popped up for people helping businesses with recovery of their websites. Have you noticed that? That's been quite. It seems to actually.
Yeah, I thought it was a great. It's a great opportunity when a fairly big update comes along. By big update, I mean just has wide-reaching effects.
Yes.
But only for a minority of the sites. But a lot of those sites, they were paying the wrong people to build the sites, obviously, and to tune them up for them. But if you're suddenly, instead of getting 40,000 visitors, you're getting 12 visitors. You see your daily income, boom, gone. You want to do something quick, and of course, a lot of those people are taking the opportunity to say, we can help you recover. And I'm not sure that all of them can, but there may be a few out there. I don't know, but good luck. I mean, it took you a while to get into the position to be dropped into this hole. It may take you a while to get out of it.
Yeah, and of course, if it turns out that 70% of your content's been spun by AI poorly, the chances are you're going to have to rewrite 70 articles if you've got 100 articles, and that's just the way that it goes. But I think I wonder if these organizations who are helping people to get out of these holes are being inundated by people who think that they have a secret button or a secret source that's going to just suddenly, make my site, work again. Yes, button. I don't think that they understand that these guys are going to go through meticulously and say, right, looks like you've got AI content that's bad. Looks like you've got duplicate content here. Looks like you haven't done backlinking properly. And it's going to be a list of fixes that they're going to have to go away and do whatever happens. And so they're still going to be faced with the same issue. And it's not going to be a quick fix. It's going to be a long, protracted fix,
Yeah. Although there might be those couple of groups out there that will do your audit and say, you need this, this, and this. And, for 5,000, we'll do it. And next week you'll be perfectly fine. And
Yeah, I guess there's
and then
possibly
they'll
some,
be gone with your $5,000, and you'll still be
well,
going, I
there is
don't
some,
think they did much.
yeah, still not ranking.
Or they'll say we're going to do it, but Google has said it might take a while to recover. So we'll take your money and you just keep watching. You'll recover eventually.
Yes, some snake
But,
oil sales.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some perfectly legitimate businesses out there, and it is a good service because I do
Right.
think that sometimes people don't know what to do for the best to make their site improve. So I can definitely see that there's an application out there for it, but
Mm-hmm.
it is about being able to trust the business that you're going to ask to help you and be prepared to pay. That's the other thing, because these things are all going to take time if it's being done properly. But so speaking of howlers and things that have gone wrong, what's been something that sticks in your mind as a sort of a mistake in the SEO world that you made, and if you can share it, what was it and what did you learn from it, Terry?
Well, I guess the hardest lesson was finding out that if I sent, say, 30 links from EDU properties, it helped my page. So why not send 3,000?
Oh,
And it's too much of a good thing can be a bad thing.
yeah,
And I had to learn that the hard way. That well, let's just send more. If that helped, if a little helped, a lot's got to be better, right?
yeah. Oops.
Oops. Yeah. Now my philosophy now with every new property that I'm looking at is tune the page so well that it doesn't need very many links.
Yeah.
And that that's done well for me. So
that is the secret sauce, isn't it? Really, is do the groundwork well in the first place. Make sure it's well integrated into your website, and then if it's needed, because I think that's the thing, and that's what I tell my clients is if they're needed, then we look at backlinks. But that is an if, because sometimes you can do quite well without them. Some internal backlinking, some internal linking, can quite often be sufficient to get you some good results.
Yeah, and it doesn't take a lot. I'll tell a client, if you've got, supply me with a client I recently lost, did financial stuff, and I said, if you'll supply me with some PDFs that I know you have from your places on your site where people can go to compare this mortgage for this one or stuff like that, if you can send me those, we can use those on PDF sites, and they're natural to have the links in there back to your, those inner pages and stuff.
Yeah.
So while they are getting backlinks, they're perfectly natural and come out of the content you have already created.
Yeah.
So you don't need a lot from, authority pages that have perhaps very little, if anything, to do with, with your business. So.
Yeah. Yeah. It's quite quite an interesting proposition, isn't it? Really, it is quite interesting. So, what at the moment, are you looking at anybody's resources? What are the best resources that you're potentially using at the moment, or that you still use to help you along your way?
Two things I look at every time I look at a new page, new to me anyway, is I look at the source code. Having dealt with HTML for so long, I look at what they're doing, and perhaps what they're overdoing or underdoing, things like that. And if you know what you're looking for, it's easy to go, oh, I see an issue with your title tag. I see an issue with your alt image tags, image names. Your images are all named 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 3 JPEG.
Yeah.
That doesn't tell Google a damn thing. So that just have familiarity with code, I think, is a big help. You can do without it, I guess, if you do all WordPress or something like that. But it helps. And then the tool I use every day for stuff is Cora.
Right.
And I know Ted Kabitis that built Cora, and talk with him probably at least once a week. Skype with him nearly daily. He's got his hand on the pulse, let's say, of the Google results. Not the algorithm necessarily itself, but when the algorithm changes, the results change. And, so he can say, hey, you know what they're doing now? Apparently they're now rewarding this more than that. And
right.
a little bit of this will help more than, something else and stuff. So, so being able to, because that compares 100, the top 100. So whether you're at 15 or 90, you can see what the people above you are doing that's different than what you're doing.
Right.
You know what? I see that in the top 10, 9 of those top 10 are doing this with their title tag. I should be doing that.
Sure.
Whatever it happens to be. So yeah, understanding machine language, HTML, and having tools, not just having a good tool you use and know how to use is more important than having, an account at SEMrush and with Majestic and all those are great if you're going to use them, but if you're not going to use them, find a tool that you are going to use and learn and willing to play around with. And that'll, I think, see you much better than having all those tools that
20 tools that you don't use.
Because there's lots of nice, shiny new objects every day out there.
Absolutely.
And some of them may be wonderful, but not if you never use them and not if you don't understand them. So
I agree. Absolutely. So along the same sort of vein, are you listening or following anyone at the moment who might have sparked your interest in the SEO world?
I follow some YouTube channels. The SEO video show, he does an interview every week with someone. And SEO Fight Club, I follow often. Lately, well, in fact, she just had her 1-year anniversary. Carolyn Holzman, who I know, has been studying indexing by running a test every day since last September. It's been a year now. Every day she's been running numbers and checking the Google bots that go to her site, and when new Google bots appear and stuff. She really does a great job. Crawl or No Crawl is her YouTube channel. And she has a podcast, Confessions of an SEO.
Right.
And Carolyn, I really like Carolyn. I met her a few years back. And in fact, this summer, she drove a couple hours and I drove a couple hours so we could have lunch one day because we were both in the same area. Anytime someone in the niche that you're in, you get a chance to spend some time with them, it's invaluable. Even if you're just talking about, Doctor Who or cars or whatever, that connection, will pay off in the long run, which is a segue into, conferences. Come to them. Those connections are more valuable than the lesson you learn from a presentation.
Definitely.
And those lessons can be great. You can learn stuff that will, completely change your business and, 3 or 10x your profits. But those presentations are not going to be as valuable as the people you meet and the connections you make.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think that's absolutely right. I think, from last year's conference, I made a huge amount of contacts and learned a huge amount from the people who were there, and it was the after conference kind of beer and stuff like that was really, really invaluable to me. So I found that fascinating. Whilst the event itself was really, really good, and there was lots of people who were talking and making those contacts for life, kind of thing was really, really good. And that's the type of access that any sort of budding SEO would be well placed to do, really. But
and it's important, if only months, weeks, months, years later, to be able to go, hey, I got a question, and be able to run it by someone.
Yeah.
To be able to reach out to Craig Campbell and say, Craig, I'm trying something new. This is what I'm doing, and showing him and him being able to give you a different perspective on it.
Yeah.
Holly's going to be speaking at SEO Underground, and Holly and I, we do that. The last time we saw each other was at a conference. She got there, and we spent, 2 hours just showing each other, look what I've been playing with. This is really cool. Oh, that is. Let me show you what I've been, and both of us getting stuff out of it, as well as deepening that connection and stuff. But being able to see other opportunities, other perspectives on what you're doing that might improve what you're doing, or that might let you go, wait a minute, before you go there, be aware of this, because I tried that already, and stuff. So having that, not just all that knowledge up here, but that knowledge in those other brains too, makes a world of difference.
So what do you think that, SEO has a lot of, mystique about it? What do you think is one of the biggest SEO black hat myths that you'd like to debunk, that you'd like to,
Well, first, the idea that your site will be penalized for something you do. I mean, if you think your site is going to be even noticed, because we're talking about an algorithm, not a human. I mean, and that algorithm, all it sees is ones and zeros, and a bunch of them. But there are sites out there, you might have heard of, like Amazon, for instance, Microsoft, Alibaba, huge sites that do all sorts of stuff that Google will tell you should not do. And they're not getting penalized for it. They're not even going to find your, 70-page, affiliate blog, let alone penalize you for it. Unless you decide to do something that's just so egregious that the algorithm goes, wait a minute, this setup of ones and zeros just cannot work.
Yeah.
So, play around. I mean, try stuff. You can reverse almost anything you do.
Yeah.
So
don't be afraid.
Yeah. Don't be afraid, and don't be focused on, Google said you should be using AMP pages. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
I mean, just because Google says it, this is a salesman. They sell ads. That's what they do for a living. And so a salesman's coming up to you, telling you this is the newest, greatest gadget. Well, that's their job, to tell you that's the newest, greatest gadget.
Yeah.
But if you watch television, you'll see the salesperson for 7 or 8 different models of cars all tells you why that's the best car to buy.
Yeah.
So you go buy the car you want, either be happy with it or change it out for another one.
Yeah.
But, if you switch every time somebody tells you, it doesn't matter if it's Google or search engine land, telling you the way to do things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think also, you know, who can forget Google Circles? You know, that's all I'll say. Their third failed social media platform.
and I loved Google Plus. I was a big fan of Google Plus.
Plus, yeah,
You know.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was.
But yeah, they've killed more things than most companies have even ever tried.
True.
So take a clue from the fact that they tried a lot of stuff. So
Yeah,
try stuff.
yeah, yeah.
And if they come
they
out with something new, give it a try. When
yeah,
they come out with something new, they want you to try it because that's how other people find out about it.
yeah,
Other people go, "Oh, I never heard of Question Hub," and then they start playing with it, and then they share it with other people, and suddenly lots of people use Question Hub.
yeah.
Or whatever else the newest, greatest thing Google comes out with.
Well, and I think the other thing as well is it's always good to have a look at what they're bringing out, because quite often they give you an incentive for trying to use it.
Mm-hmm.
So quite often it can give you a temporary boost in rankings or something like that. So it's always good to try these things because you never know where it's going to lead you. And if a shot in the arm is what you're looking for, sometimes those new things can be quite useful.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes you can find that they can be very useful, perhaps in ways Google didn't want them to be used.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. So what are the hot subjects in SEO that you think need tackling at the moment?
I think the hottest, in my opinion, is definitions, because we're not talking about the same stuff. I mean, depending on who you talk to, LSI, that's not such a thing. It doesn't matter if it's such a thing. As long as we use the same terms, we can talk. But if someone's going, calling about topic clusters, and someone else is talking about
silos,
silos or strings, and I mean, unfortunately, there is not an accepted glossary, for everything. And I heard a musician who does SEO talking about, and his was using all musical terms, the tones, using chords to combine certain. And I'm like, granted, you can write a paper because everybody will read it because they won't be able to read from the title what it's going to be about because you've got new terms, but you're not saying anything new. You're just putting new words to it, and I don't find that helpful. I find it just adds to the splintering.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's not getting a unified glossary is not something any one person can is in a position to put together and put out and go, okay, this is it.
Yeah, and I think also because SEO is still on the sort of outreaches as to whether it's even a valid job in most people's eyes, or or a role, or does it really do anything, and people still see it as in itself kind of can be a little bit snake oilish, can be a little bit hard to prove, disprove, or anything in between. I think that the adoption of phrases that we all know, like on musical terms, a C is a C. It's not an F sharp. It's not a B flat. It's a C because everyone knows it's a C because it's the accepted way. Yeah, we've all got to adopt en masse what these things are. What's the difference between a cluster and a silo? And how much of a disaster would it be if I made a silo and you made a cluster? Is that going to be a problem?
And there's not even a clear cut. SEO is a black art, or there is white hat SEO, or there's only gray, or there's black and white, and they're clearly distinctive.
It all merges into one, doesn't it? Because if you're manipulating a search engine in any way, shape, or form, so if you're producing, and this is kind of my age-old kind of kind of argument really is if you're producing content knowing that you are setting out to manipulate a search engine, that surely is black hat. If you're if you've got a backlink through any other means other than somebody organically just linking to your material without you asking for it, that is black hat.
Well, and I think most people in the black hat community would agree. The white hat community, however, says, no, black hat is only when you go cross this line. The rest of this stuff, we're allowed to build citations, which is link building to manipulate the search engines. That's okay, though. We're going to keep that in the white hat area. I mean, yeah, it just, those definitions are so, it's amazing really how different just the black hat and white hat terms are to people in either camp.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody that's not white hat understands that none of it's white hat. But when the people in white hat go, no, the line is here, wherever. Yeah. And the next person says, well, maybe here or over here. But they don't agree on where the line is, but there's definitely a line if you're white hat. And if you're black hat, you go, I see no line. I mean,
there's no line.
You're clearly trying to manipulate it. So
I think you'll find that anything that is black hat is anything that somebody who claims they're white hat isn't doing. That's essentially, that's my definition of black hat.
And if you show somebody a technique and they go, wow, well, you're just going to get penalized for that. I'm not going to try that. Fine, don't try it. That's my response. Don't. I'll keep doing it.
Fine for me.
You keep wondering why I'm above you in the searches,
Yeah, you keep doing what you're doing. Oh dear. Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. So moving forward to the conference, 4th of October, can you give us a hint as to what you're going to be talking about in October?
I plan to show, I'll say I'm going to show you 5 ways to get on page 1 within 2 weeks, and 2 of them you already know.
Oh, that's quite intriguing. Very good. Excellent.
But I'm looking forward to the other presentations more than mine, because I already know that part.
Yeah, you already know what you know. Excellent stuff. Well, Terry, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. For anybody who isn't aware, this SEO Underground is 4th of October this year. We're at London Stansted Airport, so easy to get to from planes and trains and anywhere in the world, really. And we've got some great speakers coming up. We're encouraging people to come along and talk to each other and learn and understand, the ins and outs of SEO and some of the more interesting ways of ranking your content. But we would love to see you there, 4th of October. Tickets are on sale at seounderground.co.uk. It leaves me to thank Terry Power for taking the time to talk to me today, and I look forward to seeing you on the 4th, Terry. And
I'm looking forward to it as well.
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you very much for watching today. And